Hello and welcome to the Calcast, the Hearthstone Arena podcast where we try to get better without cursing. I'm Keldor, a longtime Infinite Arena leaderboard player and streamer on Twitch. Joining me as my co-host is another Infinite player, it's Kellen Abel. Remember, if you want to find us on social media, you can search for Keldar on Twitch, YouTube, or Twitter. That's Keludar. You can also search the Calcast on Google or any of your favorite podcast websites to find us. It'll come right up. All right, Kellen, so what are we doing this week?
Well, it's the dawn of a new meta, and we are going to discuss it. It's time to talk about the top 5 classes of the current era. We've got Druid, Demon Hunter, Warlock, Warrior, and Hunter on the agenda today. I don't know if you know this, but I'm probably most excited about Hunter. But anyways, it's nice that my favorite class is in the top 5, and it's really nice that we have a top 5 that is different than it has been for a long time.
And the only thing that's not different is that I bet people are getting really sick of Druid. They keep it's on the top, and then every meta, if everybody remembers when we started before the core set, we were so down on Druid because the cards they offered were so bad, and they got rid of some of their best cards and their best removals, and we're like, Druid's gonna be bad. But the problem was that Druid was like 40%, and when they micro adjusted, the only way to make Druid viable was to make their most insane cards all really highly draftable or highly seen, like Marsh Hydra and Druid of the Plains and Survival of the Fittest and all those other cards. And so Druid has been on the top basically since the first micro adjustment of the last expansion in Barrens. So
the average number of copies of Arbor Up is 1.3, so that's pretty much where you gotta look at that. Yeah, Arbor Up is not technically not the best card. Technically, Park Panther is a better card than Arbor Up in Druid. However, Arbor Up being in an average number of copies of 1.3 per deck is pretty nuts. That's a good indicator of how good Druid is right now and how much they've been micro adjusted.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna make this one quick point about Park Panther. If you guys haven't drafted it yet or seen it,
oh baby,
so the cards that we complained about the most last meta that were 3-drops, Sunwell Initiate and Scorpid. And what I keep telling people is Park Panther clears they can coin Sunwell Initiate and Scorpid, and Park Panther clears both minions, survives, and then they still have to ping the next turn, which is just it's such a big swing. It's actually better than playing a Shadow Madness. It's so ridiculous. It's so crazy. So that card has just been, and you can use it to there's times I leave their 1/1s up knowing I have a Park Panther coming so I can go face, and it's just a great card. So I guess we're talking about Druid since we're already kind of bringing it all up. But it's really good right now.
Yeah, so speaking of Druid, so we're going to leave out legendaries as always, but Park Panther is the best Druid card right now. It has a 63.4% win rate if it's in your deck. That's how good the card is. It's slightly better than Arbor Up because it has initiative. It has more initiative than Arbor Up does. Arbor Up requires you to already have presence. I mean, honestly, it doesn't. You can still play it and it's still good. That's why it's such a good card. But Park Panther brings the initiative with it, and that's what makes it so good. Arbor Up is the second best card. Pounce is the third best card in Druid right now, and I think that is important. Pounce is actually not that insane of a card. It's specifically good because it allows the other cards to be good. So Park Panther and Arbor Up get better when you can use Pounce to clear the cards that are that your opponents play early in the game. Pounce allows you to set up for the insane cards that Druid has. The other cards that are great are Derailed Coaster and Oasis Surger. Other cards that have initiative. Druid lacks an initiative. It doesn't have Fireball. It doesn't have Flame Strike. It needs its minions and its spells to take care of that. And Oasis Surger and Derailed Coaster handle that very well. So
Oasis Surger is so good.
Oh, it's such a beautiful card. A 5-mana 6/6 or 5/5 or whatever direction you want to take it. It's gonna be good.
It's also very good with Arbor Up on turn 10.
Oh my god,
I've been doing that.
Oh, it's disgusting. So currently Druid is suffering from a plentiful bounty of options that all happen to work well together. Pounce supports all the cards that develop the board, and the other cards all develop the board together and make the decks better, which is unfortunate because we got none of the good cards that weren't Pounce in our current Druid draft that Kel and I are doing. And it's a proof that Pounce is not good unless you have these other things that develop the
Where's
board.
Savage Striker on the list? I don't have it up. I have the next class up.
Savage Striker, oh, it's a bit down there.
Okay.
It's not up there.
I was curious if it'd be in the top 15 or something because it's been
No,
really
no,
good for me.
it's below Serenite Taskmaster. It's way down there.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the Druid and Pounce even being good brings up one thing that I talked about a little bit before the podcast, which is there's something about this meta that's very important to understand. They removed a lot of reach from the game, so even like Pounce as a reach card is important. They also removed things that what matters right now is stats and removal. So like
Yes.
so where before you could draft kind of like less statted minions and just focus on getting card generation, you can't really do that now. So now you're actually fighting for the board. So you need those big stats because those are the ways that you basically win the game in the end. So it's just whoever has more big stuff at the end. A lot of times is how a lot of games go. So cards like BGH are like, they were good before, but with Epic, again, the Epic issue is still, I really have never got a confirmation whether it is on purpose or not, but Epics being as common as commons is still a thing. So you'll see BGHs and like cards like that are very, very good right now because there's a lot of 7 attack minions and there's a lot of good targets. So it's important to draft good stats and also remember that card advantage, where me and Kellen were talking about this off the podcast before as well. Card generation and card like value and stuff was so high in the last meta. Well, now it's slowed down. Spellburst is gone, and the other set, the other set was also a lot of card generation. So those two sets are gone. So now, like, your card advantage matters again. So you need to make sure you're getting the most value, the most 2-for-1s, 3-for-1s out of your cards as possible to create the most like best board states and win the games, which wasn't the case before. Because before you could draft the biggest minions you wanted and they'd still have so many resources to remove it. It didn't really matter how much big stuff you drafted, but now it matters again.
Yeah, it totally does. It really does. And it's you have to create boards on your own. You're not allowed to just generate boards anymore from an empty position. Unless you have N'Zoth or one of the legendaries, which again we're not going to really focus on because that's so rare. But it's very much, if you have the ability to generate a board, you need to take advantage of that because that's how you win these games.
And like
and Druid is the king of having a board and then wanting to build upon that board. And it does it in a really good way with all the like we said, Pounce and Park Panther and Arbor Up.
So I don't know if you agree with me on this, Kellen, but another point to kind of jump off of what we're saying is in the last 2 or 3 metas, I would say that I had to adjust my gameplay to realize that sometimes putting less tempo on the board to create better turns later was more important. But now I feel like it's kind of the opposite again, where
I agree.
Like now, like you want to just play the most stats you can all the time and, basically worry about the value generation afterwards. It's just something to think about because before, like when you would play some kind of, like I said, value generator, but you were like lowering your tempo, that was actually sometimes better than before. Now it kind of feels like, if you have the acidic swamp ooze to throw out and you're playing a warrior, a lot of times it's really just correct to just throw it down.
You got to do it. You have to create a situation that your opponent has to respond to because there just aren't as many responses. Mage has Flame Strike, but that's kind of like where it's at. I mean, we're going to talk about Demon Hunter next, and one of the strengths of Demon Hunter right now is their ability to respond to things.
Exactly.
And that's tough for most classes. Druid is the one class that is the best at creating board states because of Arbor Up, because of all these things that just develop board states. And so speaking of Demon Hunter, there's a reason that the best card in Demon Hunter right now is Expendable Performers. I mean, obviously it's just a nuts card, but it not only removes a board but develops its own board, which is exactly what we were just talking about. Illidari's Inquisitor is another one. It not only removes a board by itself. If they have 2 minions, they're both dead, and you probably still have like an 8/1 or 2. Or it just goes face and kills them. But then it's interesting to me that the other Demon Hunter cards that are powerful are strong board state neutral cards. It's Darkspear Berserker and Carnival Clown. Those are the 2 other big Demon Hunter cards, and I think it's because, in my opinion, those cards allow you to build a board while you take advantage of your hero power. And I
Mhm.
think that's just so important right now is the ability to create board states that your opponent can't deal with while you're still dealing with theirs. And Demon Hunter's 1 mana hero power is such a huge advantage in this exact meta that we're talking about right now.
And if you look at the other thing well, there's one thing to mention, and this is still true. I mentioned this. This was something that like halfway through when once the epic change happened, there was something I noticed immediately, which it makes sense, but it took me a while to really think about it, which was that all the top classes had really insane epic cards, right? Druid is a great example because they had Survival
Yeah.
of the Fittest, Marsh Hydra, Druid of the Plains. All
Oh
their
yeah.
epics were insane. And the other thing is like they micro adjusted Demon Hunter down last time, and it was still in the top three. And why is that? Because their epics are insane. They have
Yep.
expendable performers. They have Vengeful Spirit, Still Stepper. They have the Felsteel Executioner, which is another great one. They
Right.
have so many. And one thing about Demon Hunter, which you were mentioning, is I brought them up and only focused on the class cards. And if you look through their class cards, almost all of their top class cards rush or like basically react and remove. So they have
Yep.
like because there's expendable, Inquisitor removes something, renowned performers. They have Bladed Lady, Tusk Piercer, like all these cards and Fellsteel Rattler. I mean,
Yep.
we were talking about this. I just had a run that went 12. And the star of the star of the deck, you can like sometimes the star of a deck isn't always the most flashy card. Like it's
Right.
not the one you're gonna remember, but I'll tell you from being an experienced player, the card that won me 12 was having 2 Fell Barrages in my deck because
Oh,
it basically solves problems.
oh, that card is so insane.
And and again, one of the things that I didn't anticipate was I thought the card was more a 4 because I thought that it would be a little bit more awkward with board states. But I guess I didn't realize there's not nearly as many taunts as I thought there was going to be in the last.
And when we did the review, we did not know that it would hit a thing that had 2 health and then kill another thing that had 2 health. We thought it would only target the same minion twice.
Well, I thought I was pretty.
So-
I think I was pretty sure on that it would do that, though I might not have said it. But I didn't realize it would go face twice if it was the lowest.
It does so much more than you think. It just keeps doing things. Nothing can stop it. It's just a more aggressive.
It ends up getting a lot of times. It ends up getting like it almost ends up being 2 mana that removes sometimes up to like 6 mana of stuff. That's how much of a
Exactly.
swing it creates. And it's one of those cards that's kind of sneaky. It doesn't appear like you look at it and like yeah it's solid. Like it's a good card, but it's way better than it even appears. But yeah, like one thing about Demon Hunter, as long as you understand tempo basics, with their having the best hero power in the game, I mean, a lot of my best Demon Hunter decks, frankly. Now, the last one I did have an Inquisitor, and I won't lie, it won me. It won me probably like 3 of my games, but I didn't draw it a lot. It's really important.
I mean,
but I'm
the
just saying
12-win
that
game, it wasn't the reason you won the 12-win game. The reason you won the 12-win game was just tempo.
right,
So
exactly, and that's the thing. As long as you understand how to continue to apply pressure, and you take a lot of reach cards, you want to take all the weapons you can. Like it's a class where you don't necessarily have to get a lot of great cards. You just need a couple. You need like 2 or 3 of the really good ones, or at least solid ones. And as long as the rest of it's a good curve, like you can do really well and go. I think I can go as long as my deck isn't just complete trash. Like I can pretty much go infinite with Demon Hunter most times. In fact,
I think that 1 mana hero power just it so encourages a good curve, and you've been able to draft that a lot, and it's not as hard to draft a good curve as it has been in the past, and I think Demon Hunter really benefits from that.
yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna be even when the Demon Hunter class didn't have like the broken level of cards. Over the last I looked back through some statistics. I haven't had a non-infinite Demon Hunter run in like 5 months. Like
That's crazy.
like
That's
they've all
crazy.
like my average with Demon Hunter through all the metas. I know there was a couple metas where they were like way insane because like the adjustments, but even after the adjustments, like my win rate's been like definitely over 9.5. It's been crazy.
Yeah.
So I guess I should do some. I sometimes I don't really know what I'm doing other than just playing solid tempo and good play. But
Well,
I
that's
think
what it is. It's a hero that takes advantage of that, and you're doing
Yeah.
a great job of that. You're just taking cards that cost 2 mana, and then
Yeah.
on turn 3 you're hitting a 2 plus your hero power, and that's just
Right.
as good as a 3-drop. And then on turn 3 or 4 or whatever, you're playing the card that's slightly less powerful, but your hero power makes up for it.
All right. So next we're gonna bring up. Let's talk about Warlock.
Yeah,
Warlock's
so
the next
Warlock
third-
is
Go ahead.
Warlock is really cool right now because it has entitled customer. And like you're talking about with the epics being so much more frequent, Most Warlock decks have an entitled customer. Well, I don't know if that's true, but apparently it's not true. But the average number of copies in a Warlock deck is one.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign. And entitled customer is an insane card. And as we go down the list, what we're going to find is that all the Warlock cards depend on you having cards in hand. So entitled customer is a card that depends on you having cards in hand. It battle cry deals damage equal to your hand size to all of their minions. So basically it's a 6-mana 3/2 that should kill everything on the board. And that's a good card. Just doesn't matter what else it says. That's going to be good. Derailed Coaster is its second best card. Again, specifically depends on the number of cards in your hand. Specifically good for Warlock. Cascading Disaster doesn't directly say it needs more cards in your hand, but again, it's a card that the more cards in your hand, the more likely you are to be able to hold it, and the more likely you are to be able to trigger its corruption. So Cascading Disaster is going to get better if you have more cards in hand. The next card is just the best card. I think you and I have loved this card for all of our lives. It's Rift Cleaver. We love it so much. It's our favorite card that has ever existed. Rift Cleaver is the 6-mana 7/5 that destroys a minion and you take damage equal to health. It's our favorite card.
And this honestly, what did I just go over? Which is, this is a card that develops a 7/5 body and can remove the 8/8 for free. I mean, a lot of times the gate, and there's a lot of ways to heal yourself right now too, and protect yourself. So the health is
Warlock,
there's a lot of ways, and Rift Cleaver is like a card like this that is a removal with a body like this is it's probably better right now than it was in its initial meta. It's maybe not. God. It was so good. Maybe
it's
not.
There, but it's really good.
Yeah.
It's so good. God, it's just a beautiful card. It does everything you want to do. And then we devolve into a pool of cards that are about the same level, that are things like Soul Rend and Venomous Scorpion and Demonic Assault. And
I want to bring up though. I want to specifically make a mention of Demonic Assault though, because because here's the thing. This is the way as I've been playing with it and against it, that I've learned this is the way I evaluate the card now. I view it as basically a giggling inventor that does damage. For less. I mean, you don't have the 2/1 body, but it's also only 4 mana and it deals 3.
Yeah.
And sure, it doesn't have the divine shields, but the way it operates really reminds me of that, because it removes a card and then that is at least as valuable as one of the shields. But then it's also got 3 health. So it's just one of those cards that's so annoying. You're trying to develop a board to just finish the game off and they just keep removing one thing and it's kind of like a poor man's in a way. Oh, this isn't a great example, but it reminded me kind of Greybow, where you just can't get through it no matter can't get through it no matter what you do, and they just keep playing another one, and you just keep having to hit into these 1/3s.
Yeah, I was going to say Spreading Plague, but totally understand your comparison. Exactly. Something that's super annoying that you just can never quite get through while they're killing you, and it's just
And I mean, is that not what you just said? Is that not the perfect example of a premium Warlock card? A card that just keeps them in the game, lets them keep tapping because it saves health, and just lets them keep generating their hero power. And I think I don't remember what we rated it, but it's up to a 4.5 now for sure, if not closer. It's
still a 4 actually, but it's very good. It's very good.
I mean, I knew it was going to be solid, but I didn't think it was going to be quite this annoying.
It's been more annoying than I expected. Absolutely been more annoying.
But again, some of these things with our evaluations have to do with you can't always see forward into how the meta is exactly going to play out.
Exactly.
So it's not like we made a mistake, but in the meta that it's in, it's really freaking annoying.
It's really annoying.
Holy crap. Is there any other cards? Oh, go ahead.
I think that's it for Warlock. Nothing else really stands out. The other cards are pretty much what you expected. We're on to Warrior.
Have you got to play
now,
with Dreaded Mount? I didn't get to play with it yet, but I've been wanting to.
No. The mounts, honestly, I have not seen a single mount in any of my drafts.
The mounts and the Hunter mount is so stupid.
I believe it.
Because I was able to put it on the board, and then once they killed it, that has the 2/2 immune, and then I used whatever Dire Frenzy to make 2 mana 5/5s that are immune when they attack.
Okay.
Yeah, it's buffing's actually a legit strategy in Hunter right now, and that's where we're gonna go next, right? Is it Hunter?
Well, no, it's Warrior actually. Which,
okay, Warrior.
I don't know if you'll be surprised by this, but we've been talking about a game that's entirely focused on tempo. Uh, do you think there's a chance that all the top three warrior cards are all weapons? Because they 100% are, and it makes total sense.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't know. I'm going to pull it up now. I wasn't sure what they were going to look.
Like we're talking about a meta where everything matters on what's on the board, and you have to control the board and all whatever.
You're right.
It's Outrider's Axe, Livewire, Lance, and Sword Eater. So 3 weapons, and I mean, yes, technically Sword Eater is a minion, but I mean, it's a weapon. It's a 3/2 weapon that summons a 2/5 taunt. And so that's what's going to be good right now, and it makes sense that that's good right now because we're talking about things that develop on the board and provide you slow or medium card advantage. And Outrider's Axe, Livewire, Lance, and Sword Eater do that exactly right. They do it the best way you could.
Wait, can I bring up the next card quick?
Yes.
So this is something that I think it was when I was doing. So you weren't here because it was during if you guys didn't listen. Actually, I'm going to give it a little shout out. I did a midweek pod a little bit ago where I went over the arena rotation and also what cards were leaving. So if you're kind of feeling a little like struggling on like what's in the game right now and what to play around, that's a really good episode to listen to. Just saying. But anyway, when I was doing that episode, I noticed because I went through every card and I was like, Town Crier, holy crap. I forgot that card, one, that it existed and didn't realize it was coming back. But this card now with how good Rush is, this card is actually the number one, other than this is the number 4 card if you take away the legendaries out of the class cards.
Are you sure?
Yes, it is the number 4. Like it goes Outrider's Axe, Livewire, Lance, Sword Eater, and then Town Crier. For the
that is so crazy. That is not what my list says.
well, I have the class cards only.
Okay.
I take away. I don't worry about the neutrals. I always just look at the class ones. But yeah, so it's the number 4 warrior card right now. Class card, and I'm not surprised at all because it does exactly what this meta wants. It gives you a 1-mana 1/2 body which just puts a ping on the board, and it draws a card out of your deck, and it draws a rush card which you want anyway. And there's like, it's almost impossible. I had a deck that had 3 Town Criers in it, and it was the easiest 12 of my entire life. Like I remember one game where I played the first one on 1, and then I played 2 of them on turn 2, and the game was so over. It was great. Yeah. So
and Town Crier does exactly what we're talking about. It provides you with a card advantage without making you break tempo, because a 1-mana 1/2 is already a tempo positive card or neutral card. And the fact that it draws you a card, especially a card with Rush, which are already Rush is an under-costed ability. Mm-hmm. So you're getting an advantage. Like the 3 neutral cards that are actually above it are Claw Machine, Deep Run Engineer, and Venomous Scorpion, with Carnival Crown sneaking in right at the same percentage.
Okay.
As it. So it is Claw Machine is the card you're trying to get with that Town Crier. Or, there's plenty of other options. You have with Warrior specifically, you have a lot of choices. Right. But Town Crier is just an unbelievable card right now. Mm. It's a 1-mana 1/2, neutral stats, and it gets you an advantage. So I think those are the kind of cards you're looking for in this.
Yeah, and I think this is. I know I pushed this in the original card review for Barons, and I think even last meta, but I'm going to push it even harder again, which is. I know, and I'm not trying to shit on Hearth Arena, but they rate this card really low, and I don't know why. They rate it like a 30 out of 100. I think they're going to change it because conditioning. So here's the thing. This is one thing that happens that I noticed with Warrior. They're the one class that can actually keep a ton of cards in hand because of Dragon's Roar, because of War Cash. They actually can develop. They can actually generate value. So because of that, and they also generate taunts that generate value, and they draw a lot of cards because they have like so many cards to draw. They have the Town Crier, they have the Scamp, the Harbor Scamp to draw a pirate. They just have so many ways to do that. So anyway, that all being said, conditioning is even better than it was last meta. And basically the only thing you have to know about conditioning is you pretty much never play it early. You just wait till turn 5 and you pray to God there's a 3-drop in your hand. Because if you play conditioning and a 3-drop on turn 5, which basically means you didn't lose any tempo, you're playing generally a 5/5 or a 5/6 for 5 mana, which is fine. And then your whole hand is buffed and you just win. So anyway, conditioning is a card that what I'm trying to point out is no matter what cards it's up against, one of my strategies with Warrior right now, I would take I would consider taking a conditioning over like a Sword Eater early enough, because the one thing I want in every single warrior deck is just one copy of this card. I don't want to miss
Yes.
it. So
Yes.
it's just a little bit of a strategy. I'm not saying to necessarily like not like to pass it or whatever, or to
Right.
pass it or
Depends
not
on
pass
your
it.
deck,
But I'm
but
trying to stress that like I want one of these, and I'm willing to give up like a premium, maybe not an Outrider's Axe, but I'm willing to give up like a stone, like a Gorehow or like an Anchorman or like I said, the
oh yeah,
Sword Eater to get this card, because it wins me so many games. Um, and I was
absolutely.
always a little surprised by the the reviews of the card before last meta, but now I really, after playing with it and playing with it and playing with it, like I'm like, and again, you don't actually, the weird thing is you don't necessarily want two of these in your deck, but you want one.
Oh,
You
yes, you
definitely
need the
want
one.
one.
It's so important to have the one.
Sorry, I just wanted to make, I know I went a little crazy on the stressing there, but I just want to make sure
No, it
people
makes
understand,
sense.
you know. But yeah, that's
Well,
a,
yeah, that brings us to our final class.
oh
I
wait,
don't
can
know
I
if
say
you've heard this.
one more
Oh,
thing?
no,
Sorry.
please do, please do.
Sorry. I wanted to ask if you agreed with this point. One thing I find really fun about Warrior is
Mhm.
that there's three kind of archetypes that through the whole whatever history of Hearthstone that they've pushed: taunting, pirates, and rush, and
Yeah,
and weapons, I guess. But what I
yeah,
find
yeah.
interesting is and fun about Warrior right now is you can actually kind of pull off all those different archetypes.
It,
You
exactly. Yes. I think that's what's so fun about it is that each archetype and they work better together than they ever have before right now.
right?
I think you can do two of those three or four or whatever version you want to say.
Yeah,
They actually allowed those things to work together, and that has not been an opportunity until now. And
yeah.
it makes it so much more fun to play the class. It absolutely does. It is a joy to play Warrior, and it honestly has not been in the past.
Yeah,
Every time you press your hero power, it feels like you failed, and I think that's not where we're at right now.
it's kind of funny that Dragon's Roar is actually as low on the list as it is. I'm not saying that it's still not great, but it's like if
Yeah.
you look at the class cards, it's actually 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's like 14th, which is surprising. If you take away the legendaries and you're just
Wow,
focusing on warrior class cards, it's like 14th, which I'm surprised. All
that
right,
is
let's.
surprising.
I'm gonna let you take it away to Hunter. Sorry, I got a little excited about
Okay,
warrior.
well, you know what? It's funny. So, I'm looking at Hunter's stats right now, and Ramming Mount is the best card in
Oh,
Hunter by
I'm not
a
surprised.
percentage that I have never seen
Oh, what
before
is
in a
it? What
class
is?
it has a 62% win rate, and it's in 25.9%. It's over a quarter of the decks.
Holy shit! You're
It
right.
is it is the best hunter card they've ever printed that people can actually draft. It's not a rare. And I or is it sorry, legendary. And I will say that Rat King, which is another new card, um, is the best hunter card they've ever printed. It's a 5 mana 5/5 rush, death rattle, go dormant, revive after 5 friendly minions die. Obviously that card's good in Hunter, but and it's a beast, by the way.
Right.
It's better than a Sarah. It's significantly better than a Sarah. It has a 63.6% win rate if it's in your deck. It's nuts. It's absolutely insane. It is the best card. I mean, I know we're not talking about legendaries, but my God, that is such a dominant legendary that it's difficult to not say a word about it. Ramming Mount's insane. Carnival Clown, well, I mean, Venom Strike Bow is as good as we talked about. We mentioned it in our set review. Venom Strike Bow is going to be good. It is absolutely nuts. Imported Tarantula is as good as advertised. It's exactly what we said. It's
Mm-hmm.
better than it should be. It performs at all levels as a casted card or a tradable card. Venomous Scorpion's so good. And this is the thing that is really benefiting Hunter right now. Hunter's great with the cards it has. It's better with the neutrals that exist right now. Venomous Scorpion's a beast. Beast really does matter for Hunter. Parade Leader is a Rush Matters minion. Well, Rush really matters for Hunter. Deep Run Engineer is a card that doesn't technically have synergy with Hunter. It's a
Mm-hmm.
battle cry. It's the 2 mana 1/2 battle cry. Discover
Right.
a mech. It costs one less. However, that card allows Hunter to, as we've discussed, have a late game that you should not be able to have access to in a class like Hunter. Hunters should run out of cards, and yet they don't right now. They're one of the few classes that don't. And a lot of those reasons are things like Deep Run Engineer and Imported Tarantula is tradable. I don't know, just whatever legendary you want to choose that gets you a card. Um, there's just a lot of ways where Hunter ends up in the Hunter's pack, the 3 mana spell that gets you
So
3
good.
cards. Yeah, there's just like a lot of cards in Hunter right now that draw you cards. Hunter does not feel like the tempo deck that it typically does. It still requires you to play things on curve, and you're not going to play a Hunter's pack on 3, but you're allowed to develop a board and then take advantage of the board you've developed. And the pings just don't matter as much as they often do against your cards specifically. So
Yeah.
I've been very impressed with Hunter. It's in 5th place. Like it's a close 5th place. It's very close to where Warrior is. But honestly, I've enjoyed playing it. I think it's very good right now.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
like playing Hunter, and I think it's strong. It's fun to play.
it's interesting I'm looking through all 5 classes we talked about. The
Yeah.
top only class cards. I'm only looking at the class cards. The top 10 of all the class cards, almost all of them are
Yeah.
high value generation cards or cards that create like 3-for-1s. Like for instance, Venom Strike Bow. Why is that card good right now? Because it is 1 card for 4 mana that usually can remove up to 12 mana maybe or more depending.
Or
I'm just
more.
saying.
Yeah.
So it's and like, Rifle is the same way. Ramming Mount can remove like a couple, like 4 cards, and if they can't remove it, it can remove more cards. Rat King, like all these cards.
Yeah.
Because the problem is the meta is starving to have value cards because there's not.
It's just desperate for them.
So there's not tons of them. So all of those cards are at the top. So that's something to think about when you're drafting. That's why, like we were talking about a card, Guess the Weight and Druid. You don't pass it right now because you just don't pass cards that do things like that because you can't find them. You can't rely on an Onyx Mage Scribe to basically generate 4 cards for you. You just don't have that option anymore.
You just don't have access to that. Yeah.
So
you need
it's
ways to build hand size and build ways to use your mana. I think like one of the things that we stress on this podcast, we talk about it a lot actually, is the ability to spend your mana every turn. And
Right.
it's really hard to spend all of your mana if you don't have cards in your hand. So sometimes you need to spend mana to get cards in your hand.
I have to bring this up before we end the podcast just because it's actually kind of crazy. We haven't even mentioned this because we were talking so much about the classes, I guess, but we didn't even talk about the fact how good tradable has been.
It's been
and if
so
you were talking
good.
about using your mana, and man, like when you have an extra mana sitting around and you're like, I got this kind of like I love the silence one because the silence one sits in your hand, or even the one that's the weapon removal, the Scorpid one or whatever it's called, the 3 mana 3/4 weapon removal card. Like when you don't need it and you just have a mana and you're like, yeah, like instead of floating this 1 mana, I'd rather draw 2 cards next turn because essentially that's what you're doing if you're getting an extra card. So like it's so good. And like it, like if you end up having the 3 mana 2/3 that's you need minions on the board and you're not ready for it, you just cycle it out, and it creates so many situations where and that's one of the things, like with all the loss of value in the meta right now, those cards really help you continue to like keep your cards generating like what you want instead of like cards that are dead in your hand. So really tradable is definitely as good as we said it was going to be.
Yeah, it's lived up to the hype, honestly. What every good player has said about it is true. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So I think that's a pretty good summation of the meta. I think this was a cool episode because we took the top 5 classes, but we used it to actually talk about like what's working in the meta. And I think you can take a lot of the tidbits of what we said to use them, and even the other classes. We might mention a little bit about the classes that aren't doing as well next week, but I don't know if that's actually going to be our focus, because by next week, I'm assuming that there's supposed to be a balance patch this week.
Yeah, we'll see.
So we're probably going to actually have a micro adjustment this week.
Priest cannot survive at the current state, so they need to do something. Priest is
Priest lost 3 board clears in 1 foul sweep, which is pretty rough.
Yeah, 41.2% is not a sustainable position for a class to be. So they have to change that.
They lost and they lost Draconic Studies. So like, good luck.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for the 30th episode of the Calcast. Remember, you can join us 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific every week on Twitch, or you can download the podcast wherever you get your podcast every Monday by searching the Calcast on your favorite podcast website. You can also find me on Twitch where I stream, or you can go to YouTube or Twitter by searching Keludar. That's Keludar. Like I said, this coming week, we'll probably talk about the micro adjustments and potentially talk about some of the classes that we didn't touch on this week. Also want to say thank you to John Laux for the music used in the episode. Remember, you can find links to all our contributors in the show notes. This has been the Kelcast. We'll see you next week. Oh, fuck. I don't know what to swear about.
Oh, you ought to cuss about something.
I know.
How about how bad Paladin is your favorite? I mean, I don't know. Paladin's probably your favorite class over time, right?
I hate Paladin.
Or is it Druid? It's Druid.
No, I really don't like Paladin's boring to me. It's an okay class. I used to like it more, but I hate it now.
Everyone just fucking hates Paladin. We just all fucking hate it. It's miserable.
All right,
it's
little side note.
Awful to play. The only time it's fun to play is when you can cast Lost in the Jungle. If they don't have Lost in the Jungle, that class is boring as shit.
Okay, wait, I got it, Kellen.
Okay.
This has been like the most crazy. This has been like one of the worst fucking summers of my life. I'm gonna tell you everything that's happened.
Kidding.
We've put in
go through the whole sequence.
Okay,
yes.
So we've put in about 7 offers for different houses, and we've been like $50,000 over asking price, and we haven't won a single house.
Jeez.
So like I'm done with houses this summer. That sucked. Both of our cars died in the same week. My wife's car, actually, the positive battery was leaking acid, and the battery acid destroyed her starter. The guy said he'd never seen anything like it. I didn't even know that was possible, but battery acid is bad. And then we found out when we went to pick up my wife's car from the shop, my car was dead. Now my car was only needed.
Oh my God.
My car just needed a battery switched. It wasn't a big deal. It was not that big of a deal. But anyway, so that happened. Then everyone knows that my cat Beaver was like pretty much really almost died. He was down to 6 pounds.
Yep.
And he's actually doing, like, by the way, for an update, he's doing amazing. Like, he's jumping on top of the fridge. He's still getting stronger. In fact,
That's
I think
crazy.
he's better. He's healthier now. And it makes sense because he probably had diabetes then. He's actually healthier now than when we first bought him. And like it's crazy to look at him now because before his like hips were all skinny and deathly looking. And now he's filled out. Like I think he's gained like almost 2.5 pounds in like a month, which is nuts. So that's good news. And then bad news, my wife tore her Achilles tendon. So she's up on that and I'm looking for a job. So like every stress that's possible, I have gone through.
And not gone through, are still going through.
Yeah, still going through. Now the good news is, like I said, Beaver's like doing better, but it's still a small stress because I'm a little bit, my nurse brain makes me like care and try too hard sometimes. But if anyone wants to pray for anything while they're listening, please pray that I find a new job that's not in a hospital. That's what I'm working on right now. But if I have to, I'll go back into a hospital, but I'm trying not to. But anyway, it's not been the summer that I would have hoped, but it's been, we didn't get to go on vacation, but I'm hoping as soon as my wife gets a little better, we can take some trip somewhere.
Take a little trip. You can always come to Michigan. We got a nice little lake here that people seem to like. So
all right,
you're welcome to join me.
All right. Well, maybe I'll swing out there this week when her mom's here. I'm just kidding.
There you go. Oh no. All right, Cal, I'll talk to you
All
later.
right, see ya.
Maybe this week. I don't know. I'll see you soon.
No, I'm just kidding. All right, bye.
All right, bye.